It's as simple as that.
Wonderful.
We're live.
Right.
You comfortable enough just to get into it?
Yeah.
I know we've just kind of dropped in and just been like, let's go.
Sometimes that's good,
Sometimes
though.
it's the best.
Yeah.
I love podcasts, how they just start recording and they're talking and it's like, oh, we started? Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's
That's
go.
the best
We're
way
in.
for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can just start. How did I?
So the first question is, it's Rodgers, isn't it? It's not. There's not a crazy American pronunciation.
No, it's just Rodgers.
Rodgers.
Yeah, with no D.
With no D.
Yeah, I think that's the American iteration.
Yeah, we've RODGE.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So, still Rodgers.
Yes. So the simplest and start question is always, who is Tyler Rodgers?
Wonderful. I'm a chairmaker. That's my trade. I'm an outdoor enthusiast. Like to be outside. And I have a wonderful wife and kid. And I'm loving. I'm sweet. I'm quiet. And I'm trying to minimize my footprint in this world, leave it in a better place.
Like that.
Yeah.
That's pretty deep straight off the bat. Where does the minimising your footprint come into your whole ethos? Not just in making, but do you think that's your love for the outdoors, or?
Yeah, I think it stems from that. Just understanding what we've done to natural places, and there's no if you hike in the southeast, there's very few, I would almost say none, old growth forests. So most of it's been logged at some point or another, and it's been abused, it's been mined, it's been stripped. And I think it all comes from there, just understanding that, because you grow up seeing the world a certain way, but then you remove rose-colored glasses or peel back the blinds, and then just understanding ecosystems and educating yourself. So I think that's where it comes from. Mm-hmm. We don't pay much attention to our footprint. Mm-hmm. We put our head down and just blaze a trail. At the cost of so much. So that it comes from being outside and having this urge to see rivers and forests as they were, mm-hmm. which we don't. There's one old growth forest. If you guys come back and have time, it's near the Cheerhola Skyway. I'd say it's a couple hours northeast of here, and it's old growth, never been touched, never been logged. It's called Joyce Kilmer, but outside of that, so yeah, just playing in with that, how I live my life. I think that's, for so many of us, that's the silver lining with COVID, is we slowed down, and at first it was so difficult. You quit going to the office. You've got your little kid running around all day. You're tagging in and out to do Zoom calls. But after a while, at least for me, it just gave me a moment of peace, and you made peace with your situation. But the silver lining is it slowed me down. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Get out of my own way. So yeah.
Get out of your own way, I like that.
Yeah, get out of your own way. Get out of your own head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just take it as it is.
Take it as it is. Yeah, because it was an interesting time, but I'm forever thankful for it, because it got me back into woodworking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, the more people I speak to, especially in this space, I want to be very careful here, because for a lot of people, COVID was a terrible time and people lost loved ones and couldn't go and see loved ones, and we're all very, very aware of that.
Right.
I don't want to glorify it. I don't even want to remotely glorify it. But if you look for the silver linings, so for example, I was always down in London. We didn't want to stop with production. They still wanted us to do design work. We continued from home. That proved the concept, which would never have happened in the film industry. Proved the concept. and now I don't need to travel 450 miles every Friday night and Monday morning. You know, like, and that really slowed things down for us and gave us time to really think about what this was going to be.
Yeah.
This was all started. You chose to start this like 4 months before the start of COVID.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for people slowing down and appreciating print products and real life products, and let's be honest, turning the TV off because it was just bad news, this may not have been here where it is. You know, edition 6, that's a number. So how does that all tie into Chairs?
So, I met my wife. We were river guides at the Ocoee, which is about an hour east of here. So it's great whitewater. We met and we traveled a bit. We were dirt bags. I don't know if that's common in Scotland, but lived out of a bus, and we skied in the winter and whitewater in the summer. My wife's from Chattanooga, and as we fell in love, we said, hey, let's settle down here. There's a lot to do here in the outdoors, and I needed a job. So I got a carpentry job. And
with any previous experience, or?
Not really. I could cut a straight line and measure things.
In the bus that you lived in, did you do the conversion work on that as well? Or
I did not.
Right.
She and a friend did that way before me, so I was just riding their coattails. But worked for a remodeling company, building kitchens and pantries and learning carpentry. There was I hate calling him a master carpenter, but just a highly experienced. He was gifted in joinery and building casing, so shelves or cabinets, and learned a lot from him. Never had the feeling building that type of stuff I did with green woodworking. So in that time, I started to learn about green woodworkers and woodworkers that use hand tools, because we think of a shop, we think of a wood shop, we think of old retirees who spent their pension on it. We think of a commercial space that's 2,000 square feet with $30,000 of equipment, and it's just unattainable for most people.
Yep.
Most young people, unless you're taking out a tremendous amount of debt.
Yep.
And but I started to learn about Peter Follansbee and Roy Underhill, these carpenters that were into green woodworking. That's taking wood from a log instead of buying it in a store that's kiln dried. And so they would make spoons and bowls and then work the wood as it's before it dries, because it's malleable. You can carve it with a knife.
Right.
And you can use these instead of relying on a machine. And so in that time I was remodeling houses with a friend. I worked for her, and it kind of got me into brokering. So and we were expecting our son. So in that haze of just excitement, anxiety, all that comes with bringing a child into the world, I got an office job. I was brokering. Yeah. So I said, I'll make some money. I'll hang up my tool belt. One day I'll be able to afford, let's go make money, then I can afford this lifestyle. I was lying to myself. And I did that for a few years until COVID. I was selling commercial real estate. And when COVID hit, most property owners, whatever plan they had or whatever we worked on project, it was just put on pause. So we sat for a few months, and then in that time of office work, my loving family would get me these weekend trips to various folk schools, mostly John C. Campbell. It's couple hours east of here, near Murphy, North Carolina. I'd go for a weekend, make spoons or make bowls, and just have this overwhelming sense of belonging, holding these hand tools and shaping wood. I was starting to say, this is me. This is where I need to be. These are my people. So yeah, when COVID hit and everything slowed in the business world, no one's making decisions. I just said, here's the pivot. Let's do it. Let's pivot. And my wife's like, do it. You love this. Do it. And
It's great.
yeah, I couldn't do any of this without her. So yeah, working out of my basement in our house. The time came to figure out what I could make and make a living.
Yep.
There's a lot of spoon carvers. I made bowls for a bit. You'd work 10 hours on a bowl, then it breaks. When it's drying, it's just like banging your head against the wall. So I knew about Chairmakers through publications. I knew about Curtis Buchanan, who's, in my opinion, for the Southeast, he's the Windsor Chairmaker. He's the guy. He's him and a few others. Dave Sawyer, who passed away recently, he's from Vermont. He was the one that helped Curtis. And then Drew Langsner, who lives in Western North Carolina. They all just intertwined in the late 70s and 80s. So they really took Windsor chairmaking and brought it back from the doldrums, just the place it wasn't growing. So I learned about Curtis and started reading, and he had some videos up and got a few books, and just hearing him talk about his pace, his ideals, where he wants to be as a craftsperson. I was like, that's what
me.
I want. That's me.
Yeah.
It for him and for me, it's not as focused on the chair. It's the process.
Right.
It's a quiet shop. You're touching every part of the chair. It's all from a log. So it's just really a hands-on process. And, most, I wouldn't say most people, but people snark at it like, takes too long, but it's once you have one and use one, it's just like no other, and it's really battling the 5-year furniture business, the Havertys, and I shouldn't drop names, but
Yeah, no, I know what
you can
you can find them.
We had a market yesterday, and for me now it's just advocating for what I do. So I'm talking to people, young couples with young families or young people remodeling houses. It's like, oh, you build chairs. We need chairs. And they need time to plan because they're not cheap, but they know, and by me talking to them and how they're put together and the details, they know that their grandkids are going to fight over this furniture. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
May get painted, but it'll be one piece. Something like Kate's sitting in. It's that's the chair I want to grow old in.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Yeah.
I want to read in it every day till I'm an old man, and then it can go on to someone else. So I think there's a place for that in this world. I think young people are seeing the value in that. Just like with the food industry, that was really the kickoff. Where does our food come from? Where does our coffee come from? And then it's just perpetuated into our clothes, our furniture.
True. Yeah.
And bringing the economy back to not just a region, but a local economy. So yeah, so that's how I got here.
Amazing.
And when you decided to do it, did you go full time straight away?
I did. I had some business I was wrapping up, but my wife always says you chase 2 rabbits, you go hungry.
Yeah.
And
I like that.
yeah, I think it's a Chinese proverb.
Right.
You chase one rabbit, you eat, and you chase two,
We can give your wife credit for it today.
Yeah,
she came up with
absolutely.
it. We can give her credit.
I give her a lot of credit, but I did. I got a few books. There's a wonderful book that Peter Galbert wrote. I think he's up in New Hampshire. The Chairmaker's Notebook. I mean, it goes through everything. It's hand illustrated. It's a beautiful book, and it has 2 chairs you can make. So I worked through that, and I emailed Curtis Buchanan. Like, he's 70. He's slowing down, and by choice, and he still makes chairs. His commissions are closed. He doesn't have apprentices. He's not teaching since COVID. I thought, God, see if this guy, because he's 3 hours away, up near Johnson City. I said, it's about you guys are going to Knoxville. It's about 90 miles north of there. Oh man, I emailed him. He said, come on up. So I went up, and
Nice.
I drove. I did it in a day. I drove up on the whole way. I thought, God, what am I doing? Driving up here to meet this guy. I mean, he's not going to teach me anything. And we talked, we chatted. I was making chairs. I wasn't making a Windsor chair. I was making a ladder back
Oh yeah.
that has
I
the
know
woven
them.
seat.
Yep.
Because that was the lowest, seemed to be the lowest barrier of entry. All the parts are round. They're all very similar, and then you glue it up. There's not many angles like these. And I took a chair with me, and him and I chatted for a few hours, and great to meet you. Thanks for having me. I said, hey, if you ever want to teach again, I would love to be a student. And 2 days later, he emailed me, hey, I want to do a class. I've had enough returning students, and another woodworker in town who does a lot of Victorian type furniture,
right.
A lot of carvings, a lot of joinery. I'll have a couple students. So yeah, last year I've been back and forth, just soaking all I can from him. I need to go see him again, but that chair you're sitting in is his baby. It's the Democratic chair. So
It's lovely.
so he taught me that chair, but then it just kind of cascades into everything else.
Yeah.
So super fortunate him to
That's
do
nice
that
of him
for
to
me.
be like,
Yeah.
like I want to teach you how to do it.
And that's his mentality. He created that chair to lower the bar of entry for a Windsor. When you think Windsor, you think of turned parts from a lathe. You think of steam bent parts. It's just not a attainable craft for a beginner.
Yeah.
But that chair's done with all hand tools.
Right.
You can build a shave horse. I don't know if you're familiar with one.
Yeah, I know shave horse.
Okay. And a draw knife. You can buy a draw knife at an antique store. The steel's great. The handles, make sure they're on. Sharpen it up, and you're off to the races with that thing. So that was his mentality with that chair. So he's had the same thought with young, aspiring chair makers. Like, I tell you guys what I know because you're the future for it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we want to keep this craft alive, so
Yeah.
I'm going to teach it.
Right, and he accredits Dave Sawyer for all he knows, and I think Curtis said Dave's always said, I didn't do much for you. Curtis is like, you did a lot for me, and it's kind of the same. We talked some, but he's put a lot of videos out, and you know, I've been with him some this past year. It's like it means the world to a beginner because we're a sponge. We're just soaking it all in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
And how important do you think that was, not just for you, but for other makers, to find someone like that? Well, first off, you're fortunate you found someone that's willing to pass those things on, which is very cool of him. But in your progression, how many years do you think you'd have been at this, trying to get it right? It sounds like you'd have just been at it anyway, like from reading the journal.
Yeah.
But then how many, going with someone like that, you must have just light sped ahead.
It's the small things that you take away that when you put them all together as a whole, it just shaves years off with angles, with technique. And I think it's important for any artist or maker to have a foundation. There's no wrong way to do something, but you're not reinventing the wheel. Maybe you are, and kudos if you do, but have a good foundation, and then put the hours in by yourself with a partner, whatever it may be, working. And that's where I've been. That's where I've lived. Yeah. Just making parts, throwing them away because they're crap, and finding peace with that.
Yeah.
Bringing a lot of Zen Buddhism into that, but knowing that I'm learning.
Yeah.
And then doing it again and again. But yeah, it means the world to me. And like I said, I think young makers just need to understand that you just got to do it. You got to put the hours in.
Yeah.
Because you can be taught and your hand can be held, but it's really just,
you need to put the work in. It's you at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So what about one thing that I'm also very aware that we're bad for is jumping on YouTube. And everyone we talk to, you can't just jump on YouTube or you can't just jump online, whereas you've done it more analog. Was that just because that's what was available, or is that just your preferred method of learning?
Yeah. And how I learned?
Yeah, you said you got the book.
I got the book.
Did you opt to go for a book, or was it just there was a great book out there, or was there just nothing out there on YouTube for
I think there is stuff on YouTube.
Yep.
I think there's just enough on YouTube. Curtis has done a lot on YouTube. And I think his intention was to drive a class so people can see enough, or get enough interest and then go take a class with them.
Right.
I think going the analog route with a book and various publications, I think it gives you space to interpret, just like reading a book before a movie.
It's very true.
Your book, you paint the picture. You're
not distracted by anything else. It's like that's what you're reading.
Right.
You take it in more than probably YouTube, because there's all sorts of things on YouTube, and
there's another thumbnail down
Don't
here.
Don't get me wrong. I frequent YouTube if I'm eating lunch.
Yeah.
Especially Curtis did a great video turning this stuff, and it's challenging. To be honest, it's very challenging. I still hold my breath when I do it. Like, just don't break. But my wife's an avid reader. She teaches English.
Okay.
And which kids from the 90s, that's the last thing we did. We watched cartoons. It's a TV world. We were raised by baby boomers who had the greatest TV in the world. Now it's in color and you can watch whatever you want. There's 80-something channels. So, I got to give her credit, especially being outside and quiet and reading, having an appreciation for it.
Yep.
So I think she had great teachers. Quite frankly, according to her family, she's always been an avid reader. But it gives you that space. Once you appreciate reading the book before the movie comes out, it gives you that space to paint your own picture, and it gives you a good foundation of the story. But same with the book. I mean, it tells you the angles and what works, what doesn't, what to pay attention to with grain. But it gives you plenty of liberty. Yeah. And liberty to mess up and to learn from that, something you'll never do again. Yeah. So
what does a typical day look like for you now?
I'm sorry?
What does the typical day look like for you now?
I drop my son off at school. I love the time of day before the sun comes up, 5 a.m. to 7. It's just you look. I've got a little door you look out and it's just barely getting bright. I love that time of day. If I'm doing quiet work, if I'm making these spindles and I'm just shaving on a shave horse, I'll get up early and put a few hours in, and then I can hear wife and kid upstairs, pitter patters. I'll go up and make breakfast. So yeah, breakfast, off to school, and then really it's a every day is a different checklist. Yep. Every chair has its time frame with parts. It's all green wood, so a lot of this stuff has to dry, and a lot of it's going to be a part of a joint, so it's got to be a certain hey. It's got to be a certain moisture content.
Yep.
And that's Zora. That's and the owner's daughter.
Nice. What do you look like now? You get up pretty early.
Yeah,
Pretty
I try to. If it's warm in the summers, I'll go on a bike ride, clear my head a bit. But different parts of the chair being made, different parts are drying. So yeah, it could be turning parts for a few hours, trying not to do the same thing for 8 hours a day, but turn parts or do shave horse work. Mm-hmm. So it just depends, but it's usually some part of the chair being shaped, picking up a log from my log guy, Rudd up on Signal Mountain, and then getting it in the yard, splitting it open, seeing how the grain looks, and then riving that. Hang on one second. Beep. Yeah, so just, it all depends.
Yeah.
Painting, just all of the above. It's a day of chair making. So nothing particular. I try to get the list the night before, and you never finish that list, and you make peace with that. But yeah.
That's good. You know when to stop.
Yeah. Know when to stop. I think I think there's a lot of value in that. Just spend time with your family. There's no, we call it a grind, but I think that's a poor term to use. It shouldn't be a grind. It's going to be stressful at times. You're going to have deadlines, but I got into it so I didn't have to do
the grind. Yeah.
Yeah.
I hear that.
I got in it for peace and for a quiet life. So I try to avoid the grind. There's parts I prefer of others. I wouldn't say I'm sick of any part of the chair of the process, and it's a roller coaster. Carving a seat, it's a roller coaster. You make some passes with the end shave, and it's just like, oh, that looks horrible. And you go back, oh, it's looking better, and it's just, yeah. But just to keep your eyes on the end, you know. Yeah.
How do you make peace with that? Just accepting that you're not going to finish everything on the list.
It's a good question. I wouldn't say I do every time, but I just decide to make peace with it. And I think that's the easiest way to put it. It has to be a decision. There's no boss giving me a deadline. It has to be a decision. The day is over, and
yeah,
you can wait till tomorrow. And no one's losing a life or gonna be injured, or nothing's happening if I don't finish my list today.
Yeah.
So it can wait.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm bad for that. If I don't get to the bottom of my list,
Yeah, you stress
I
out.
either stay up for what can sometimes be days, or I'm a pretty shit person to be around.
Yeah, yeah,
And I wrote the list.
yeah, right.
You know what I mean? I wrote the list. It's
You can
only
always
my
just
own
put
fault.
too many things on that list thinking, you know, I could
Yeah,
do
could have
that.
drawn a line under
Yeah.
4 or 6 tasks, and I didn't have to write 12.
Yeah, yeah.
You start beating yourself up about it.
Maybe what I try to do when that list is made is do the thing first I want to do least. If
Yeah.
it gives me that liberty
Yeah.
in the process, like, I'd rather do this, so I'll save that. Or if it's more cerebral, try to knock it out when I'm in my coffee brain and I'm chomping at the bit. I've had a few cups, as opposed to after lunch when the fog sets in, and
Yep.
yeah, save that for painting, or I don't sand much, but save it for that.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about with having such a young family? One, do you think you would have been as introspective as you seem to be, I hope introspective is the right word, as you seem to be had you not had a young family? And two, what about that work-life balance as a maker? What has that given you or not given you?
It's given me, my wife's a teacher, she's at an institution, and she's full steam ahead, and she's hard on herself.
Right.
So she's not like I'm the one that's running to the store or picking up the kid. I'm the flexible one. I think that's worth its weight in gold. As a family, because there's going to be a time when that changes. Not that that's certain, but that's just how life plays out.
Yep.
So I think I've made peace with that. I think she's understanding that there'll be a time when she'll cook more and run more errands, and then I'm just slammed, or I'm off teaching, I'm out of town. And yeah, with our son, just a young family, I'm just super mindful of what he's around. And I forgot who did this, but it was before I had a kid, but I saw a young family. They were the neighbors of a house we were remodeling, and I was filthy. I was tearing stuff out. I looked like a coal miner, and I was dirty. And I think I said to her, "You need to stay in school. Don't need to do this." And she turned to her mom, and her mom's like, "You can do whatever you want. You can be whatever you want to be." And I thought, wow, that's nice. It's nice to hear. Not that my parents didn't say that, but our baby boomers, post-World War II babies, families left the farm and got educated. So for them and for us, it was expected. It's like we have this facility, so you're gonna go to 4 years of school, and then
It was almost they didn't have it prior to that, so when they did have it, it's like that's what we should use what we have.
Right.
Which I get, we should use what we have, but now it feels like a choice.
Right.
You can do either or. You don't have to do one or the other, or you can do both, which a lot of people do.
And I think my dad, he worked for a utility company, and so he knew electricians and contractors, and he knew the value in hand labor. And there's just so much stigma around that coming out of the 80s and 90s. You work with your hands. You could be a stockbroker, could be a doctor.
Yeah.
And so I don't think it was a parent or a teacher. It was just society looks down on working with your hands. So erasing that stigma, hearing a parent tell their child, you can be whatever you want to be. It was just so,
It's amazing.
it was so big for me. I just thought, man, that's nice. So with my young son who's in kindergarten, telling him he can be whatever he wants to be, I can't have him come back to me and say, why would I do that? You're not being whatever you want to be. You're stuck in an office you hate.
Yep.
And so many of us saw our parents do that. Job they maybe not hated, but they tolerated. They're paying their dues. They're getting their pension.
Not truly being who they want to be.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so yeah, as a young family, that's my goal. Watch my son grow and watch what I do, and I'm doing what I want to do, and yeah.
Yeah. And what about the?
What's that?
That's all right. And what about your sort of timescales and stuff? What does that look at like for you? You're obviously talking about your list and stuff, but what about from the start to the finish of a chair?
Yeah.
And are you doing them on a commission basis, or are you just making them out to sell?
Yeah, I've been fortunate to have commissioned chairs the whole time. About the time I finish a job and start thinking, God, I need to find work. The phone will ring. I'll get a referral. But they've all been commissioned, and it depends on the chair. Some, like these two, are 40, 50 hour put in. That one's a bit less, probably in the 20s. So spread over time, but it's no quick venture.
Yeah, quite.
Yeah.
And there's worth to that. And so what does it look like? How are people finding you? What are you using to push yourself out? Because you are still very new to this. But you seem to have knocked out I say knocked out. I don't mean that in a negative connotation.
No,
but
I get it.
You've put out quite a lot of chairs in that time, by the
Yeah.
looks of things.
I'm working on a website, which I think the older crowd wants to see, and I think it's where I'll talk money, because I don't post about, hey, come buy this chair. Instagram,
Yep.
yeah, I mean it's free.
Yeah.
I'm trying to post more. I think my first commission was another artist who did ceramics, who her and her husband opened a meadery, and they needed bar stools, and she returned the favor. I always loved her work, and I think she pivoted while having kids from that in their business. But yeah, and then just referrals, and yeah, I mean you can't put a value to referral word of mouth.
It's the best kind of
Yeah,
marketing
it
ever.
is. And I think some people, like with the Democratic chair, they see it and they know it's the right chair, and so they get on the list. And table makers, they don't make chairs. They might make a bench, but I've had a lot refer me work, because if the person's spending money on a good table, they're probably spending good money on chairs.
Yeah.
And no one really makes chairs. It could be a short list.
Yeah.
If you've got people who did it for a living. Yeah.
I certainly see more table makers than I do chair makers. We know a couple of good chair makers, Marchment Workshop, and Sam and Rich, and
Yeah.
we've featured some others. But I look at our submissions, and there's certainly a lot more people doing tables,
Right.
and variations of tables. Is it something you've ever thought about doing?
I've made tables.
You have?
I made tables when I worked for a company, and they had a wood shop, and I helped that carpenter make tables. It's something I've done. It just goes back to the simplicity of chairs.
feels like there'd be a lot of setup. There's a lot of you can't really get away with a table without bigger machinery.
If I made a table, I would need a shop that has a table saw,
Yeah.
which is typically the big machine in the shop. It has a feed table, so it's usually the centerpiece.
Yeah.
I'd have to have a joiner, clamps galore to clamp it up, and
Requires a lot more.
It would complicate things. And yeah, like you said, there's plenty of table makers out there. I couldn't work out of my basement making tables. I made a coffee table for a friend the new year, and I think I'm going to offer that as a something I make, but it's small.
Yeah.
And it's 2 pieces of wood. So, and I did it with all hand tools, and I turned the legs. So it was something that I need some variety in my catalog, but that's going to be it. It'll be a coffee table.
Yeah, it's still akin to the chairs. It feels like a full-size table requires a lot more, doesn't it?
Right. But just Windsor. If I was looking back at old notebooks and when I was in the office, just writing down like, what do I want to do when I'm old? And Windsor chairs are always coming up, and so I got past the fear of doing it. It's an intimidating chair. There's a lot going on. Some people say it's more complicated than a suspension bridge, which it's built very similar. I just dove in. Yeah.
And what about in the future, like talking 4, 5, 10 years down the line? Is it something that you would then expand to, or are you really happy with this as the size it is, just one man making chairs?
I'll build a shop behind our house. We have a half acre, and my plan is to build a shop that's small, to where I could facilitate 1 or 2 students at a time, and then an apprentice. I want apprenticeships as I grow. I want young people to just spend time with me, make something with your hands. They don't have to go on with chairs, but they can
get the experience.
The skills are transferable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But that's about it. I'm gonna stay small and slow. Yeah.
Do you think that comes from the guy that you done your?
Yeah.
You now need to get back a bit, don't you? Yeah.
It comes from Curtis. Looking at who learned from him, his apprentices, and seeing where they've gone, gives me a good idea of where I could go. But I think that comes with that. It's a lot of unwanted stress. I don't really want employees. That means they're depending on me as much as I am them. And if my wife's a teacher, she's off for 2.5 months in the summer. Let's hit the road. Let's get out of here.
Yeah.
I like the flexibility of that, being able to take a long weekend, not have to manage anybody. But apprenticeships, I think that language is coming back in the craft world. Not that it was ever gone, but I feel like in the old days it was a staple. Young people had apprenticeships, and then they worked half the time for a experienced craftsperson, and then they worked half for them, and then they left. They flew the nest.
Yeah.
So I think that could we could see that come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially it's difficult to get a 4-year degree, and not to get one, but to get a job after. And most people are graduating college with a mortgage.
Yeah.
So I think if I had a young person interested, I think it'd be a breath of fresh air for them.
Yeah. I agree. I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think we've got a lot of reliance on going and getting secondary education, and I am not a qualified source to tell you whether you should or should not, but I think you should just be open to both options. chair making, certainly back home, I'm thinking back to Sam and Rich, does tend to be a lineage thing, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. Is that how Curtis views it, or how you view it, having learnt from Curtis? You know, that he's designed this. This is one of his designs, isn't it?
That's his design, yes.
Do you view that as a lineage? Like, you're now carrying on that, especially with him being, what, 70 and slowing up?
Yeah, I'll carry that on, but I probably won't change it. I think some people out there changed, because if you see, it's all has these facets, so it's all done by hand, but there's some people out there that'll turn this general shape because you got a mortise here. So, but yeah, it's not, I don't have the liberty to change his baby.
You would rather do your own thing.
I'll get to the point where I'll have my own creation, and more than likely it'll come from a need. Someone needs like a cafe chair. That's kind of where my mind is with that. I need something that's not quite elaborate, that I could put in a cafe, that probably doesn't cost as much to make, or the hours are less, but I need 20 of them. I can see that coming along eventually.
I can see there being space for that.
And then having that chair as my own baby.
Yeah.
And then creating plans for it and selling those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it just depends on who's looking at the lineage of a chair, because most of these are all from plans that Curtis created with. His name's Jeff. He drew the plans, but I don't think either of them would take credit. Not for the chair. These chairs are 300 years old, but just small things. The angles, they're all a little different, and I think that's just over time, just finding what works best, and then putting that on the plan, kind of the final iteration. So yeah, I can see that happening for me, probably just out of something I won't force. It'll just come. The universe will make it happen.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And just let it sort of ride its own path, you know, and see what comes from there.
Yeah, right.
And then the ability to then be able to teach and push out, you know, lessons and courses. I mean, I go back to Bill that was seen just yesterday. Bill Oysters built a business out of being able to teach it. You know, from a business perspective, it's a good idea.
Is he teaching fly rods?
Fly rods, yeah.
Out of his shop?
Out of his shop. He had 3 people in yesterday. One of them, it was their 21st class. One woman was her 22nd class, and another lad was his 9th class.
And he's sold out until 2024.
Is that right?
Yeah, late 2024.
That's amazing. That's where I want to be. I want to be. I love a quiet day, chair making, but I think just I wouldn't say mental health, but for my own good, I need to get out.
Yeah.
And get with people. And I'm teaching this year one class, and then the 2024 I'll teach a few more. I'd like to be half and half with commissioned work and then education. Having people to my place, just 1 or 2 at a time. Maybe letting them select a chair. I'm not quite sure yet, but yeah.
From a strictly business point of view, none of the makers seem to fall foul of it. People that put on classes do well. You know, whether it's Bart, who you can fly from anywhere in the world and spend a week with him.
Yeah.
Live in with them and build a canoe.
Canoes, you
can build a full canoe from scratch there and then. And then buy the canoe and take it home with you at the end if you want.
But what I love at it, like even Bill's class, like some of these people have never made in their life. They just want to try some new. It's a real experience from building it from scratch. And you know, that person might go on and be like, actually, I want to make something. I want to change what I'm doing and go into a craft or whatever. And I think that's quite powerful.
I think so, especially looking at some of Bill's clientele that are, you know, mega high performing in the business world, and then later in life have found out, I can go to a class and make something. You know, I think it's life changing for a lot of people. One of the guys is moving to Blue Ridge because of it. That's pretty major.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I'm sure he's not moving just for Bill, but it's certainly Bill's community around making, fishing that's got him there. And I think it also starts to build, and I hope you find it, if you do find your shop a lonely place, is a community around your chairs.
Yeah.
What's the makers community like around Chattanooga? Or Tennessee in general?
yeah,
Because we noticed North Georgia was good.
Yeah, I think Chattanooga has a lot of art support, so visual art, less tangible art. But I think for let's say furniture makers, things we use, I think there's plenty of room to grow in terms of supporting each other. And there's some friends of mine own a farm about 30 minutes in Sequatchie Valley, which is just over Walden's Ridge. It's not far, and they're working on a folk school called Cumberland Folk School.
Nice.
And so
What's it called, sorry?
Cumberland Folk School.
Cumberland Folk School.
So right now their classes are they're teaching things. They're bringing in instructors that can make brooms and smaller stuff.
Yeah.
You don't need a big facility. They do a lot of farm-related food, farm-to-table, a lot of cooking classes. So I think, with what they're doing at Cumberland Folk School and just, I think it's a slow burn. This region 50 years ago was so industrial. And I mean, I think it was the 70s, Walter Cronkite called Chattanooga the dirtiest city in the world. So, and I think that's what kick-started a lot of environmental activists keeping their eyes on this region. Yeah. But same with craft. I think it's just a slow burn with there's a Chairmaker there, and he's being supported, then I can move there. Because people are moving here hand over fist. I mean, they're coming in. So, I think there's plenty of room to grow. But I've seen so much support from locals.
Good.
Yeah.
How important is that support?
It's very important. I can sit all day in a quiet shop and question what I'm doing. I just need to know that I'm loved and appreciated, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Do you think you'd still be doing it? What, 3 years in? Do you think you'd still be doing it if it wasn't for that support network?
I think so. I think regionally, I could do this.
Right.
But yeah, I think I would. I've never been one to succumb to what people think of me.
That's
right.
good.
Yeah,
That's a good thing.
I've never cared.
Yeah.
That helps.
Yeah, it does. And it seems like a good time to be the sort of slow growth, timely maker, I think is probably the best way to put it. The real people seem to be appreciating. I'd be interested to know if it's the same in the US, but certainly in the UK, people seem to be appreciating everything's expensive now.
Yeah.
So spend your money in the right place.
Right. Yeah, like I said in the beginning, know where your food comes from. It can be the same with everything, especially sustainability, something you're not going to replace.
Yeah.
It's not going to go keep it out of the landfill. And I think overall people are just appreciating a slow life.
Yeah.
They see it, they want to be it, and they want to support it. We're seeing it more and more in all the industries, cycling, just handmade goods, furniture, food, ceramics.
Yep.
It's a good time. I don't think if you're a money person, you may not say that. That's probably the one thing. It's not. most of us aren't getting in it for the money.
No. No. But there is places you can choose to live, and places you can choose to build a lifestyle around it.
Right.
You know, who is it we were speaking to? We've got a podcast with them. My mind's gone blank, I can picture their face and everything. And they were saying that they knew that's what they always wanted to do.
Yeah.
So they just built their life around it.
Yeah.
They were like,
Yeah.
I picked the house based on what, I picked the location based on it. Like, I picked everything because I knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life.
Right,
And
right.
I think certainly with, and I hope the work that Kate and I do helps it in the fact that because there's more availability in Instagram, like it or love it, that's where the availability is. We can see so many makers in an hour of doom scrolling, you know, and people are able to see, and especially crafts like yourself, experiment with stuff and just does it tick? Right, well that's what I want to do. You know, they can see other stuff, and it goes back to you can do anything and you can adjust. Yes, you might not make loads and loads and loads of money, but then there's always going to be the odd person that makes a really good living out of it.
Right.
Or there's somebody that's got, like yourself, like teaching classes like that. There is other ways to monetize it other than just the making.
You can diversify any craft. Yeah. I think we own a small house and we don't owe money on cars. I think if we had a few other pivots throughout our life, it'd be probably impossible to do this. But it's just it's economics. Like I can do this. We just don't have a lot of overhead. You look at someone with a big mortgage and a couple cars you're paying on, it's just, there's no way. So I just think, I just hope people see this lifestyle and strive toward it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You seem to be really happy at it.
Yeah.
Not that we know you very well. But
What's that?
Not that we know you very well,
Right.
but you seem to be very happy from what we see.
I found a lot of peace in what I do, and I think that's the trick. You know, not working a day in your life kind of thing.
Yeah.
A few people have said that.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. It's our time is so valuable, and we piss it away with stuff or working for corporations that don't value you. It's just how do I want to spend my days? There are not many of them.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 36. You know, once you start to lose a few friends and you just start to put things into perspective.
Yep.
It's precious and how do I want to spend my time? When you get out of your invincible 20s, you start to see how fragile life is.
Yep.
So, But
Spend it doing what you love.
absolutely, yeah. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you see yourself taking that same craft to things out with chairs? Is it the craft that you love, or is it the making of the chair that you love? Like, could you see yourself going and doing some fly rods or going and doing something?
Oh yeah, I could probably not make and sell fly rods. I'd like to make one.
Yeah.
I'd like to.
That's where it all
I'm gonna
starts.
I'm gonna go knock on Bill's door next weekend.
Yeah, just say, podcast.
I'm gonna
with
name
Jack."
drop you guys
Yeah,
because
please do.
I've always loved his work and
Friday, Saturdays. Showroom's only open Friday, Saturdays.
he's not open on.
It's only open Friday, Saturdays.
Okay, I'll
'Cause
be
he does
there.
classes, and he said it was too much people kept coming in because
Right.
his community's got so strong. It's like a bike shop, you know?
Yeah.
How many times did you have to get 5 or 6 services done in a bike? I don't know if you ever worked in a bike shop, but 5 or 6 services done in a bike shop, and all the guys pull up on different rides at different times and want to chat.
I can tell when my mechanic's busy or not. Yeah, I can get a clue.
Get a jet.
Like,
Yeah.
get out of here.
Yeah.
not time to drink beer and chat.
Yeah.
But I see the transferable skills with green woodworking. Yeah, I would like to learn other stuff.
Yeah.
I probably won't. I probably won't. I don't need another hobby right now, but there's so many I want to do. I want to make baskets, and
Yeah.
I want a potter's wheel. I want to throw ceramics so bad. If I came home with a hobby, my wife would.
Go visit Tracy. She's got a nice pottery studio.
Tracy's got a wicked pottery studio.
Yeah, but
Yes.
I'm just trying to keep my head down.
Yeah.
For a while, and just stay focused and get to. There'll come a time when I'll give myself that liberty. I'll know when it comes with chairs. Like go learn something else.
What about doing a skill swap? You know, if there was a potter that wanted to learn how to make a chair.
Oh, absolutely. I think craftspeople live with the barter system.
Yeah.
Like, hey, I couldn't buy these chairs if I didn't make them.
Yeah.
Same with other stuff. So.
Well, us makers tend to make something if they can't afford it.
Yeah. A lot of it starts that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a few barters in the works. So yeah, maybe I can talk Bill into that.
Yeah,
I'll make you a chair. Help me make a fishing rod.
It's a nice way to be, though, isn't it? It's a nice.
It is.
It's a real nice way to, and then everything ends up having a story and.
That's
Collaborations.
Yeah. I think that's how small economies should work. It's how they worked hundreds of years ago. We traded pork for chicken and grain for corn, and there's no science about it. That's just how things worked.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
We're so fixated on monetary gain.
Yeah.
We forget to trade.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, talking about skill swapping and skill sharing, is there any other collaborations that you've looked at and thought, I'd like to work with that person, or I'd like to...
Oh yeah.
Yeah?
I'm always, when I see a craft or a style I like it, I'm always reaching out to them. It's like, what can we do together? I've put the idea in some people's heads. I think that it needs to marinate like any art.
Yep.
Just let it marinate for some time, and when it comes to you, it will. But there's a chair similar to this one, but it has a desk attached to the arm rail. Mm-hmm. It's a riding armchair, and I want to do probably call it an art installation, to where you just have this in a public space, or say something like the airport, something that you may have to hurry up and wait, and just have a pen and paper. It'd be nice to have a quill. There's something that we can write a note. A bookstore would be ideal. You can write a note to someone and put it on the wall. We'll just write something for anyone and put it on the wall and slow down. Yeah. Or a settee, a double chair, where you just sit and talk.
Yeah.
I like that.
There's a podcast called StoryCorps. No, I think it's StoryCorps. And every Friday on public radio, they play a segment, and it's just they did a global tour with a bus where people would go there to talk, and some heavy stuff. You know, a mother and a child, or father and child, or old friends get together and they talk about issues or stuff they don't have the gumption to bring up in a family setting. Yeah, so that I would love that. I would love to do something along those lines.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Absolutely.
And have you got anything else brewing in the immediate future, or anything you want to cover while we're here?
I'll be teaching at John C. Campbell Folk School this year.
Cool.
I'm teaching the Democratic chair. The woodshop coordinator wants to have more of a tier system with chairs, to label a class as beginner, medium, expert.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And you know, something like Kate's sitting in is more advanced. If you're turning on a lathe, or you're doing a double bend for a continuous arm. So give students the availability of a beginner chair class. So I'll be teaching there, and it's like I've said, teaching's heavy on my heart. I want to teach as soon as I can in Chattanooga and have people come and stay, and make a chair.
Sounds good. It's
yeah.
a really good thing to offer.
I think it's a good thing. I think it's an important thing to offer as well, especially when you were so well received when you wanted to learn.
Yeah.
It's important to continue that on.
I would be, if I didn't bring up Wendell Berry, I probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for Wendell Berry. He's a famous writer out of Kentucky, and he grew up, he's in his mid-80s, but he grew up farming, agrarian lifestyle, went to college, went to grad school, and then he got a writing job in New York City. So he did well.
Yeah.
But I think that was short-lived. He said, this is not for me. Mm-hmm. He had fame and fortune at his doorstep, went back to Kentucky, bought a 30-acre farm, got his hands in the dirt. He never bought he may have a tractor, but he plowed with a horse. But he's a novelist, poet. He wrote longhand.
Right.
Typewriter. His wife typed. He never bought a computer. And I have a lot of respect for him. If you guys or anyone out there, if you're looking to slow down, just grab a book of his off the shelf. And then his poems are just, they hit.
Yeah.
And there's a poem called Our Real Work. And he says, it may be we no longer know what to do, we've come to our real journey. And the mind that's not baffled is not employed. And the impeded stream is the one that sings. And that hit me hard. And so I would say that was a big catalyst into what I do now.
That's cool.
The complexity of a chair, it keeps me on my toes. And yeah, kind of tying it into fishing in the outside world. The impeded streams, those are the streams that make beautiful noise. They're the ones that sing. So yeah, I think just looking at life as the beauty of having challenges, the beauty of a farming lifestyle, which is full of challenges.
Yeah.
We know that. I'm from
we
farming.
know that.
Yeah. My grandfather's the same. I think they've had the obvious challenges of farming, but then with him, just the challenges of mass agriculture and dealing with the government. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so a lot of respect for Wendell Berry.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It's good.
But he brought me here. And I read him all the time. I'm not gonna lie. My wife gives me, you should read this. It's not. It's a busy book. I need a slow, peaceful book. Yeah, just kind of. Another thing too, having grandparents that farmed, and my grandmother's passed. My grandfather's 95 or 6, and he's fully retired. But just talking to these people, these are people that have lived their life dirt farming. Their morals are different. What they want to, just everything about them is different than a young kid from the 90s. And Wendell Berry put it in perspective of just like how we lost the ability to communicate with different societies, whole different societies, different lifestyles. We'd go visit my grandmother and grandfather. Hey, let's run to town and get a coffee. She's like, why would you do that? We have coffee here.
Yeah. It's just an alien thing, isn't it?
Why would you go eat? We have freezers full of food. Like, now I get it. I get it now. Yeah. But yeah.
Good.
And I've
Kate?
got one more question.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, what advice would you give your younger self?
Oh, wow.
Always catches people, but it's a good question.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely. Well, I would tell myself, younger self, to listen to myself. I think I'd go into college and I did so many things that made me so uncomfortable, gave me so much anxiety, and I just never learned to listen. You know, you're young, you're anxious, or whatever it may be. You throw blankets over it. Just listen to yourself. Your body, your heart. It'll tell you where you need to go. Yeah. And I would tell myself, go work with your hands. I don't care what it is.
Yeah.
Go work with your hands. I did plenty of odd jobs for people mowing grass and working on farms.
Manual labor.
But yeah, listen to yourself.
Oh, that's a good answer.
Yeah.
I'd take that.
Yeah, your body will tell you everything you need to know.
Yeah. Tyler, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time today.
Yeah.
I
Thank
you
really
guys.
appreciate it.
Thanks for reaching out.
It's been a great chat.
Thanks for reaching
I've really
out.
enjoyed
Yeah,
it.
yeah. I'm glad it worked out.
Yeah.
I love what you guys do.
Thank you.
I think it's a wonderful resource. Yeah, we need that.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we're hearing that more and more over here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully we can keep doing it for a long time yet. Keep doing stuff like this in the digital space, and
Yeah.
Print.
this just funds the print.
Mm-hmm.
The print will never go away as long as we can help it.
I know. I think prints.
Like you say, it's a book. That's what you're focusing on.
Everything
you're not
else has to turn off.
scrolling or,
Right.
like you're paying attention to what's in front of you.
Yeah, we're prints not going anywhere.
It's not
I mean,
dead.
It's beautiful. Just holding some tangible things. So much was intangible not long ago. Just holding something, and turning the pages. Yeah. Thank you guys.
Good.
Welcome. Glad you're in the States.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
That's good.
Yeah.
Lovely. Let's wrap it at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys.